billionaire CEO risked his entire empire by pretending to be poor. You won't believe what happened next. The champagne tastes like regret. Natalie Taylor stands at the edge of the Four Seasons ballroom in downtown Chicago, clutching a glass of Dom Perignon she didn't pay for, watching her younger sister Mia glow in ivory silk under crystal chandeliers. The wedding is perfect, too perfect. The kind of perfect that costs 6 figures and comes with a price tag Natalie knows their parents can't afford. She presses her thumb against the stem of the glass until it hurts, anchoring herself in something real. "You look like you're planning a murder," a voice says beside her. Natalie turns. The man is tall, dark-haired, wearing a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. No tie, no jacket. His eyes are the color of smoke, and there's a half smile playing at his mouth that makes her spine straighten defensively. "Just thinking about how much all this costs per minute," she says, gesturing vaguely at the room. "Somewhere between a car payment and a down payment on a house, I'd estimate." His smile deepens. "You always this romantic at weddings? You always this nosy with strangers?" "I'm working," he says simply. "So technically being nosy is part of the job description." Natalie blinks. Studies him again. The expensive watch that doesn't match the casual shirt. The way he holds himself like someone used to being looked at. "You're one of the escorts," she says. And it's not a question. Mia had mentioned it offhand during dress fittings, how her fiancé's family had hired companions for some of the single wedding guests. Classy arm candy to fill out the photos, make the party feel complete. Natalie had rolled her eyes at the time, another example of the excess bleeding through every detail of this day. The man doesn't deny it, just tilts his head slightly, studying her with an intensity that makes heat crawl up her neck. "And you're the bride's sister, the one who lives in New York, the journalist." "Freelance journalist," Natalie corrects, which is a fancy way of saying I write articles about sustainable fashion for websites that pay in exposure and optimism. Sounds fulfilling. "It's a disaster," she admits, surprising herself. Maybe it's the champagne. Maybe it's the fact that this stranger is being paid to be here, which somehow makes him safer to talk to than her relatives. But it's my disaster. I chose it. He nods slowly, something shifting in his expression. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. "I'm Ethan," he says, extending his hand. His palm is warm, his grip firm. Natalie feels the contact like a spark of static electricity, unexpected and sharp. "Natalie." "I know," Ethan says, and there's something in his voice, something that sounds almost sad. Before she can ask what he means, Mia appears in a rustle of silk and expensive perfume, pulling Natalie into a hug that feels more like a performance than affection. "There you are. Mom's been looking everywhere. We need you for family photos." Natalie lets herself be dragged away, but she glances back once. Ethan is still standing there, watching her with those smoke-colored eyes, his expression unreadable. Something in her chest twists, a strange premonition she can't name. She doesn't know yet that he's not what he seems, that the man in the rolled sleeves and deliberate mystery is Ethan Cross, CEO of Cross Tech Industries, a venture capital empire worth $3 billion, that he's here because the groom is his younger brother, and he'd spent the last week before the wedding working 30-hour days to prevent a hostile takeover of his company. That when his brother asked him to blend in at the wedding, to not overshadow the day, to not bring the weight of his name and his world into this one perfect moment, Ethan had agreed. And that when Natalie assumed he was hired help, he'd made a choice in the span of a heartbeat. He didn't correct her. For the first time in years, someone looked at him and didn't see his net worth, didn't see the empire, the reputation, the responsibility that followed him like a shadow. She just saw him. And God help him, He wanted to know what that felt like for just a little longer. The hotel elevator smells like expensive cologne and poor decisions. Natalie leans against the mirrored wall, her heels dangling from one hand, her carefully constructed updo slowly surrendering to gravity. It's past midnight. The reception is winding down into drunk uncles and slow jazz, and she'd escaped the moment she could do so without her mother shooting her a look of profound disappointment. The elevator stops on the 14th floor. The doors open. Ethan steps in. He's lost the white shirt's crispness somewhere between the first dance and now. His hair is disheveled in a way that looks accidental, but probably isn't. He sees her and stops, one hand holding the elevator door. "Running away?" he asks. "Strategic retreat," Natalie corrects. There's a difference. He steps fully inside, lets the doors close. They're alone in the small, mirrored space, and Natalie is suddenly aware of how she looks. Barefoot, slightly drunk, her makeup smudged at the edges. "What floor?" Ethan asks. 12. You? 15. He presses both buttons. The elevator starts its smooth ascent. Silence settles between them, but it's not uncomfortable. Natalie studies him in the mirror, the way he's loosened but not removed his composure, like someone who's been trained to never fully relax. "Can I ask you something?" she says. "Depends on the question. Why do you do this? The escort thing?" Ethan's reflection smiles, but there's something guarded in it. "Why do you think I do it?" "Money, obviously. But you don't..." She pauses, trying to find the right words. "You don't seem like you need it. Not desperately, anyway." "Maybe I like the pretense," he says quietly. "Maybe it's easier than the alternative." The elevator chimes. 12th floor. Natalie should step out. She should go to her room, take off this dress, sleep off the champagne and the strange melancholy that settled in her chest like fog. Instead, she turns to face him directly. "What's the alternative?" Ethan looks at her for a long moment. In the warm elevator light, his eyes aren't smoke-colored anymore. They're almost gold, flecked with something that looks like loneliness. "Being yourself," he says finally, and watching people decide that's not enough. The words land between them like a confession. Natalie's breath catches. She knows that feeling. Knows it bone deep, the exhaustion of performing yourself into someone acceptable. Someone successful. Someone who doesn't disappoint the people who love you. "I'm in room 1247, she hears herself say. "If you want to not be enough together for a while. Just talking. Nothing." "I know," Ethan says softly. "Just talking." He doesn't get off on the 15th floor. They sit on opposite ends of her hotel bed, a room service cart between them loaded with French fries and mini bottles of vodka that cost $18 each. Natalie has changed into leggings and an oversized NYU sweatshirt. Ethan has finally removed his watch, set it on the nightstand like he's shedding armor piece by piece. "My sister thinks I'm jealous," Natalie says, dragging a fry through ketchup. "Of the wedding, the marriage, the whole fairy tale." "Are you?" "No. Maybe. I don't know." She takes a drink straight from the tiny bottle, feels it burn down her throat. "I'm jealous that she knows what she wants. That she's not afraid of it." Ethan nods slowly. "What are you afraid of?" "Wanting the wrong things. Failing at them spectacularly. Becoming one of those people who peaked in college and spent the rest of their life wondering what happened." She laughs, but it sounds hollow. "What about you? What's the worst part of your job?" He's quiet for so long, she thinks he won't answer. "The performance," he says finally. "Being what people expect. What they've paid for." Natalie looks at him. Really looks at him. sees the exhaustion under the charm, the careful construction of someone who's learned to be what others need. Then stop, she says simply. It's not that easy. Why not? Because... He stops, runs a hand through his hair. Because sometimes the performance is safer than the truth. Natalie sets down her vodka bottle, shifts closer on the bed, close enough that their knees almost touch. Try me, she says. Give me one true thing, something you don't usually say. Ethan looks at her, and something in his expression cracks open. Just slightly. Just enough. I haven't had a conversation this real in 2 years, he says quietly. Maybe longer. Natalie's heart does something complicated in her chest. That's really sad, Ethan. I know. She reaches out, takes his hand. His fingers close around hers automatically, warm and solid and somehow familiar. They fall asleep like that, sitting up against the headboard, still clothed, their hands linked between them like a promise neither of them meant to make. Natalie wakes to pale Chicago sunlight and the feeling of someone watching her. Ethan is sitting in the chair by the window, already dressed, his hair damp like he's showered. There's coffee on the desk, 2 cups, one black, one with cream that he must have gotten from the breakfast downstairs. You stayed, Natalie says, her voice rough with sleep. You didn't kick me out. She sits up, pushing hair out of her face. Her sweatshirt is twisted around her torso, and she's pretty sure there's mascara smudged under her eyes, but Ethan is looking at her like she's something worth seeing anyway. I got you coffee, he says. I didn't know how you take it, so I guessed. Natalie takes the cup with cream. It's perfect. Sweet enough to taste like comfort, not quite strong enough to taste like punishment. Lucky guess. I'm good at reading people. Occupational hazard? Something flickers across his face. Something like that. They drink their coffee in comfortable silence. Outside the window, Chicago spreads out in steel and glass and autumn light, beautiful and indifferent. I have to go back to New York today, Natalie says eventually. There's a pitch meeting tomorrow I can't miss. Big, sustainable fashion expose that might actually pay real money. Sounds important. It's probably nothing, but I have to try. She pauses. What about you? Back to whatever it is you do when you're not working weddings. Ethan sets down his cup carefully. Natalie, I need to tell you something. The shift in his tone makes her stomach drop. Oh God, you're married. You have a wife, maybe kids. This is the part where you tell me last night was a mistake and... I'm not married, Ethan interrupts. I'm not. This isn't that. Then what is it? He stands, walks to the window. His shoulders are tense, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. When he speaks, his voice is quiet. My name is Ethan Cross. Natalie waits for more. When it doesn't come, she says, Okay? I'm Natalie Taylor. We established this yesterday. Cross Tech Industries, he says, still not turning around. Venture capital. Portfolio worth about $3 billion. I'm the CEO. The words hit her like cold water. Natalie sets down her coffee very carefully, her hands suddenly unsteady. You're joking. I'm not. But you said, I thought you were... She can't finish the sentence. Her mind is racing, replaying every moment from last night. The way he'd let her assume. The way he'd smiled when she called him an escort. You lied to me. I didn't lie. I just didn't correct you. Now he turns, and his face is raw with something that looks like regret. The groom is my younger brother. I came to the wedding to support him. He asked me to keep a low profile, not to let my work overshadow his day. And when you assumed I was hired help, I just... Let me keep thinking it, Natalie finishes. Her voice sounds strange to her own ears. while I told you about my failed career and my fears and everything I don't usually say to anyone. Natalie. No. She stands, wrapping her arms around herself. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? I sat here last night talking about $18 vodka like it was a splurge, while you probably spend that on a single breath. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Ethan? What was last night to you? He crosses the room in 3 strides, stops just in front of her. His eyes are desperate, searching hers. It was real. It was the first real thing I've had in so long I'd forgotten what it felt like. You're a billionaire, Natalie says, and she can hear the edge in her voice. You can buy real whenever you want it. That's the problem, Ethan says quietly. I can't. Everything in my life is transactional. Everyone wants something. Everyone's performing. And you? He stops, takes a breath. You just saw me. Not my money, not my company, just me. Natalie wants to stay angry. Wants to hold on to the clean fury of being deceived. But she can see the truth in his face, the vulnerability he's offering like an open wound. I need to think, she says finally. Ethan nods, reaches into his pocket and pulls out a business card. Thick, expensive cardstock with minimal design. He sets it on the desk beside her coffee. My direct line, he says. If you want to talk. If you want to yell at me. If you want anything. He leaves without touching her, without trying to convince her of anything more. Natalie stands in the empty hotel room, holding a coffee cup that's gone cold, looking at a business card that costs more than her monthly rent. She doesn't throw it away. 3 weeks later, Natalie is drowning. The sustainable fashion exposé fell through. The publication that had seemed so promising suddenly went in a different editorial direction. Her rent is due in 6 days, and she's $300 short. She's been living on bodega coffee and the kind of optimism that comes from pure desperation. She's also been thinking about Ethan Cross every single day. His business card sits in her wallet, a small rectangle of possibility she hasn't been brave enough to touch. She's looked him up, of course. Spent hours reading Forbes articles and TechCrunch profiles, seeing his face in tailored suits and boardrooms, looking nothing like the man who sat on her hotel bed eating French fries and admitting he was lonely. She's standing in line at a coffee shop in the Lower East Side, counting coins from her pocket, when her phone buzzes. Unknown number. She almost doesn't answer, but something makes her swipe accept. Natalie Taylor? A woman's voice, professional and crisp. Speaking. My name is Catherine Walsh. I'm calling from Cross Tech Industries. Mr. Cross asked me to reach out regarding a potential opportunity. Natalie's heart stops. What kind of opportunity? We're launching a new initiative focused on sustainable business practices and ethical supply chains. Mr. Cross thought your journalism background and expertise in sustainable fashion might be a fit for our communications director role. The position would be based in Chicago. Salary starts at $175,000, full benefits, equity options. The numbers hit Natalie like a physical blow. That's more than she's made in the last 3 years combined. This is because I slept in the same bed as him, Natalie says flatly. This is, what? Guilt money? Payment for services rendered? Catherine's voice doesn't change. This is because Mr. Cross believes you're talented and the position is real. Whether you take the meeting is entirely up to you. But I can tell you he's very good at separating personal and professional. He wouldn't offer you a job you weren't qualified for. I'm not interested, Natalie says, and hangs up. Her hands are shaking. She orders her coffee on autopilot, finds a table in the corner, and pulls out her laptop. Opens her email to write a pitch to another publication, another attempt to make her dream work. The words won't come. All she can see is that number, $175,000. Financial stability, a real job with benefits, everything she's been struggling for, offered by a man she spent one night with. A man who lied or didn't lie, but didn't tell the truth either. Her phone buzzes again. This time it's a text from an unknown number. I didn't tell Catherine to call you. She did it on her own because she's read your work and thinks you're brilliant. But I'm not sorry she did. I miss you. And Natalie stares at the message until her vision blurs. Then she blocks the number. 2 days later, Natalie is eating ramen at 11 p.m. when someone knocks on her apartment door. She's not expecting anyone. Her building in Brooklyn is the kind of place where unexpected knocks usually mean trouble or Jehovah's Witnesses. She looks through the peephole. Ethan Cross is standing in her hallway, looking completely out of place in his expensive coat and exhausted eyes. Natalie opens the door but doesn't move aside. How did you get my address? I'm a billionaire with access to corporate databases, Ethan says. It wasn't hard. Can I come in? No. He nods like he expected that. Then can I say what I came to say from out here? Make it quick. You're lowering my property values just by existing. Ethan almost smiles. Then his expression turns serious. I fired Catherine. Natalie blinks. What? For calling you without your permission, for crossing a professional boundary. She was one of my best executives, and I let her go because what she did was wrong, even if her intentions were good. That's... Ethan, you can't just fire people for... I can, and I did. He takes a step closer, not into her space, but close enough that she can see the shadows under his eyes. Because I need you to understand something, Natalie. I didn't come to Chicago to seduce my brother's wedding guest. I didn't plan any of this. I was just tired and lonely and so sick of being Ethan Cross the billionaire that when you looked at me and saw just Ethan, I couldn't let it go. So you lied. So I was selfish, he corrects. I took something that wasn't mine to take, your trust. And I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. I'm here to tell you that night meant something to me. Something I haven't felt in years. And if you never want to see me again, I'll respect that. But I couldn't let you think it was fake. That you were just another transaction. Natalie's chest feels tight. Why should I believe you? Because I'm standing in a Brooklyn hallway at 11 p.m., probably getting mugged by proximity, when I have a board meeting at 6 a.m. tomorrow. He runs a hand through his hair. Because I haven't been able to think about anything but you for 3 weeks. Because I'm terrified I've ruined the only real connection I've had since... He stops. Since I can't remember when. This is crazy, Natalie whispers. I know. You're a billionaire. I know. I'm broke and struggling and living in a 400-square-foot apartment that smells like the Indian restaurant downstairs. I don't care, Ethan says, and his voice breaks slightly on the words. Natalie, I don't care about any of that. I care that you made me laugh, that you saw through my bullshit, that you talked to me like I was human. Natalie looks at him, this impossible man with his impossible life, and feels something in her chest crack open. One chance, she says. You get one chance to be real with me. No more secrets, no more performances. Just Ethan. Just Ethan, he agrees. She steps aside. He comes in. Natalie's apartment looks even smaller with Ethan in it. He sits on her thrift store couch, still wearing his expensive coat because he hasn't taken it off yet, looking around at her life like it's a museum. The stack of unpaid bills on her coffee table. The laptop held together with duct tape. The walls covered in rejection emails she's printed out and pinned up like wallpaper. Her personal gallery of failure. Why do you keep those? Ethan asks, nodding at the rejection wall. To remind myself I tried, Natalie says. She brings him water in a mismatched glass because she doesn't have anything better. Every no is proof I put myself out there. Ethan takes the glass but doesn't drink. That's brave. That's delusional. There's a difference. Is there? They look at each other across her tiny living room, and Natalie feels the weight of everything unsaid between them. Tell me something true, she says, echoing her words from that first night. Something you've never told anyone. Ethan sets down the glass, leans forward, elbows on his knees. I built my company from nothing. Worked 80-hour weeks, sacrificed every relationship I had, turned myself into exactly what I needed to be to succeed. And now that I have it, now that I'm worth $3 billion, I wake up every morning and wonder if any of it matters. The confession lands heavy in the quiet room. Why? Natalie asks softly. Because I'm successful and isolated and so fucking lonely that I let a stranger think I was an escort just to feel normal for one night. His voice is raw. Because I'm 34 years old and the last time someone touched me without wanting something, I can't even remember. Because I built an empire, and somewhere along the way, I lost myself inside it. Natalie's throat tightens. She crosses the room, sits beside him on the couch, close enough that their thighs touch. I'm scared I'm turning into someone I don't recognize, she admits. I came to New York to be a journalist who mattered, someone who told important stories. And instead, I'm barely surviving, writing fluff pieces about eco-friendly yoga pants, watching everyone I went to school with succeed while I just... She stops. While I fail slowly. You're not failing, Ethan says. I'm $300 short on rent, Ethan. That's the definition of failing. No. He turns to face her fully. Failing is giving up. You haven't given up. I'm tired, she whispers. I'm so tired of being brave. Ethan reaches out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she doesn't, he cups her face in his hand, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. Then let me be brave for both of us for a while. Natalie closes her eyes, leans into his touch. This is insane. We barely know each other. I know you're the first person I've wanted to know in years. That's not enough. Then what is? She opens her eyes, looks at him directly. Honesty, trust, actually building something instead of just wanting it. I can do that, Ethan says. I want to do that. Even though I'm broke and struggling and living in an apartment that smells like curry? Especially because of that. He smiles, and it transforms his whole face. You're real, Natalie. You're the most real thing in my life. She kisses him. It's not planned, not smooth. It's desperate and honest and tastes like vulnerability. Ethan makes a sound against her mouth, his hand sliding into her hair, pulling her closer. They kiss like they're trying to prove something to each other, trying to make up for 3 weeks of silence and longing. When they finally pull apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rests his forehead against hers. I need you to know something, he says quietly. If we do this, if we try this, I'm all in. No more secrets, no more performances. Just me, trying to figure out how to be human again. What if I mess it up? Natalie asks. What if I'm not enough for your world? What if you are? Ethan counters. What if you're exactly enough? Natalie doesn't have an answer for that, so she kisses him again instead. The hostile takeover attempt happens on a Tuesday. Natalie is in Ethan's Chicago penthouse. She's been splitting time between New York and Chicago for 2 months now, still freelancing but with significantly less financial panic. When his phone starts ringing at 3 a.m., Ethan answers on the second ring, his voice instantly sharp. Talk to me. Natalie watches him transform, watches the soft, vulnerable man who'd fallen asleep with his head in her lap become someone else, someone harder, sharper, untouchable. How much? A pause. That's more than their company is worth. Who's backing them? Another pause. Fuck. He's out of bed, pacing. Natalie pulls on one of his shirts, follows him to the living room where he's already opening his laptop. What's happening? She asks. Attempted hostile takeover. A competitor firm is trying to buy enough shares to force me out. His fingers fly across the keyboard. They've been quietly acquiring stock for weeks. This is coordinated, professional. Can they actually force you out? If they get enough shareholders on their side? Ethan looks up, and his eyes are cold in a way she's never seen. Yes. The next 72 hours are brutal. Natalie watches Ethan work, barely sleeping, barely eating, conducting endless phone calls and video conferences. He's brilliant and ruthless and completely exhausting. She brings him food he doesn't touch, coffee he drains without tasting. She also starts to see the other side of his life. The board members who treat him like a commodity. The investors who threaten to pull funding if he doesn't play ball. The endless pressure to be perfect, untouchable, always winning. On the third day, his phone rings during a rare, quiet moment. Ethan looks at the caller ID, and his expression goes flat. I have to take this. He steps into his office. Natalie shouldn't eavesdrop, but the door isn't fully closed, and sound carries in the penthouse. Told you this was coming, Ethan. If you'd just approved the Shanghai deal like I recommended. The Shanghai deal was unethical, Marcus. We've been through this. Unethical is losing your company because you're too principled for your own good. The voice on the other end is sharp. Your investors are nervous. They're wondering if you still have what it takes. I built this company from nothing. I have exactly what it takes. Then prove it. There's a shareholder meeting Friday. You need to show them you're still the right person to lead Crosstech, which means making the hard choices. What hard choices? The ones that put profit over principles. The ones that show you're serious about growth, not playing social justice warrior with sustainable initiatives and ethical supply chains. Silence. Then Ethan's voice, cold as winter. Those sustainable initiatives are the future of this company. They're what separate us from every other soulless venture capital firm. They're what make you look weak. Make a choice, Ethan. Your values or your empire. The call ends. Natalie steps back from the door, her heart pounding. She doesn't have time to move further before Ethan emerges, sees her standing there. You heard, he says flatly. I heard. He looks at her for a long moment. Then he crosses to the window, stares out at Chicago spreading beneath them in lights and shadow. I started the sustainable initiative because of you, Ethan says quietly. After that first night, after talking to you about your work, I started thinking differently. Started wondering if I could build something that mattered beyond just making money. Natalie's chest tightens. Ethan. They want me to kill it, to prove I'm still focused on profit. And if I don't, he stops. I could lose everything I've built. What do you want to do? He turns to look at her. I want to tell them all to go to hell. I want to build the company I actually believe in, not the one they think will make them the most money. Then do that. It could destroy me. Or it could save you, Natalie says. She crosses to him, takes his hands. You told me you were tired of performing, tired of being what everyone expected. This is your chance to stop. What if I fail? Then you fail being yourself, instead of being someone you hate. Ethan pulls her close, wraps his arms around her like she's the only solid thing in his world. I'm scared. I know, Natalie whispers into his chest. Be scared anyway. Friday comes. The shareholder meeting is held in a downtown conference room with too much glass and not enough air. Natalie isn't supposed to be there. She's not an employee, not an investor, just the girlfriend who's been living in Ethan's penthouse for 8 weeks. But Ethan asks her to come. "I need to see your face," he tells her that morning. "I need to remember why I'm doing this." So she sits in the back of the room in a dress she borrowed from his assistant, watching Ethan stand before 50 people who hold his future in their hands. He doesn't use notes, doesn't soften the message. "6 months ago," Ethan says, "someone asked me why I do what I do, why I built Crosstech, and I realized I didn't have a good answer anymore. I'd built an empire, but somewhere along the way I'd lost sight of why it mattered." The room is silent. I'm here today to tell you that's changing. Crosstech will continue to be profitable. We've grown 30% year over year. Our portfolio is strong. Our projections are solid. But we're also going to be ethical. We're going to invest in companies that prioritize sustainability, fair labor practices, genuine innovation that helps people, not just extracts profit from them. A board member stands. "That's not what we hired you to do. We hired you to maximize shareholder value." "Then fire me," Ethan says calmly, "because I'm done maximizing value at the expense of values. I'm done building something that makes me ashamed to look in the mirror." The room erupts. Natalie watches investors argue. Board members threaten to pull funding. Watches Ethan stand there, calm and unmovable, while his empire threatens to crumble around him. Then Marcus Holbrook, the board chair, the man who'd called Ethan weak, stands up. "Enough," he says. Everyone goes quiet. Marcus looks at Ethan for a long moment. Then he smiles. "You've got balls, Cross. I'll give you that. Is that a vote of confidence or a termination notice? It's a challenge. You want to rebuild Crosstech as an ethical empire? Fine. Prove it works. You've got 1 year. If the sustainable initiative pays off, if you can show me that values and value aren't mutually exclusive, you keep your company and your board seat." He pauses. "But if it fails, you step down. Quietly. No severance package. No golden parachute." Ethan doesn't hesitate. "Deal." They shake hands. The meeting adjourns. Natalie meets Ethan in the hallway outside. He looks exhausted and exhilarated, like someone who just jumped out of a plane and isn't sure if his parachute opened. "You just bet your entire company on being a good person," Natalie says. "I know. That's either very brave or very stupid. Probably both." Ethan pulls her close, kisses her forehead. "But for the first time in years, I feel like myself, like I'm building something that matters. What if it doesn't work? Then I'll fail being someone I respect instead of succeeding as someone I hate." He echoes her words back to her, smiling. "I learned that from someone very smart." Natalie kisses him there in the corporate hallway, not caring who sees, not caring about optics or performance or what anyone thinks. Just two people choosing each other over safety. Just love, brave and uncertain and real. 1 year later. Natalie stands in the Crosstech lobby at 6 a.m., before the building fills with the rush of employees and the hum of a company that never truly sleeps. The wall installation went up last month. Reclaimed wood from demolished Chicago warehouses. Recycled metal formed into something that looks like roots spreading upward. 43 company names are etched into those metal roots now, each one a business in their portfolio committed to sustainable practices. She traces her fingers over one name. Threadline Collective. Ethical Fashion Supply Chain. That one's hers. The company she helped discover. The exposé that became an investment. The full circle she never saw coming. The lobby smells like coffee, and the faint scent of the rooftop garden filtering through the ventilation system. Rosemary and lavender that Ethan insisted on planting himself. He'd spent 3 weekends covered in soil, looking nothing like a billionaire CEO and everything like a man trying to remember what it felt like to build something with his hands. Natalie's phone buzzes. A text from Ethan. Rooftop. 5 minutes. Bring coffee and that stubbornness you do so well. She smiles, shakes her head, stops by the executive break room. The coffee here is absurdly good. Some single-origin Ethiopian blend that costs more per pound than her first apartment's monthly utilities. She still can't quite get used to that, even after a year. Even after moving to Chicago permanently 6 months ago. Even after accepting the communications director position she earned through 3 rounds of interviews, a presentation to the board, and Ethan recusing himself from the entire hiring process to avoid even the appearance of favoritism. She takes 2 cups, his black, hers with cream and too much sugar, and heads to the elevator. The rooftop terrace is Ethan's refuge, and Natalie understands why. Up here, 60 stories above Chicago, the city spreads out in early morning gold. Lake Michigan a sheet of bronze to the east, the skyline emerging from shadow like a promise. The garden is lush even in late October, filled with cold, hardy plants and the kind of careful design that looks wild but isn't. Ethan is standing at the railing, jacket off, sleeves rolled to his elbows. The sunrise catches in his hair, turns it copper at the edges. He's lost weight this year. Not from stress, but from actually sleeping, actually eating meals instead of working through them, actually living instead of just surviving his own success. You summoned? Natalie says, handing him his coffee. He turns, and his smile is the unguarded one she's learned to recognize. The real Ethan, not the CEO performing confidence. I have something to show you. This feels ominous. It's not ominous. It's... He pulls out his phone, scrolls through emails, his excitement barely contained. Okay. Remember that sustainable fashion expose you pitched 3 years ago? The one that magazine rejected right before you came to Mia's wedding? Natalie's stomach drops. Vividly, it was the beginning of my spectacular failure spiral. Why? I bought them. She nearly drops her coffee. You what? The publication, Modern Ethics magazine. I bought them this morning. Well, Crosstech bought them. Through the Sustainable Initiative Fund. He's grinning now, looking absurdly proud of himself. And I'm offering you editor-in-chief, full creative control. You can run that expose. You can run whatever stories matter to you. Natalie sets down her coffee very carefully because her hands have started shaking. Ethan, you can't just buy publications for your girlfriend. I didn't buy it for you, he says, and his voice shifts into something more serious. I bought it because it's a good investment. Because ethical journalism is infrastructure. It's how people learn to care about the things we're trying to build. It's how sustainability stops being a buzzword and starts being a movement. He pauses. You being the perfect person to run it is just a very convenient bonus. The board approved this? Unanimously. Marcus actually said, and I quote, "About damn time we invested in media that doesn't make me feel like I need a shower." Natalie laughs, but it comes out shaky. She looks at the phone he's holding out to her, at the email chain with lawyers and acquisition terms and a salary that makes her chest tight. I don't know if I can do this, she admits quietly. Why not? Because what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if I take this opportunity and prove that everyone who rejected me was right? Ethan sets down his phone, takes both her hands in his, anchoring her. Natalie, look at me. She does. His eyes are steady, smoke-colored in the morning light. You're not the same person who pitched that story 3 years ago, he says. You're not the struggling freelancer living on bodega coffee and optimism. You've spent the last year building a communication strategy that turned ethical investing from a PR stunt into a competitive advantage. You've written stories that changed how our portfolio companies think about their supply chains. You made sustainability profitable and human and real. That's different. It's not different. It's proof. His grip tightens. You're ready for this. You've been ready. The only question is whether you're brave enough to believe it. Natalie looks at him. This man who bet his empire on being good, who transformed his loneliness into purpose, who risks himself daily by leading with values instead of just value. One condition, she says. Name it. You don't interfere, ever. If I write an expose about Crosstech, you don't kill the story. If I criticize your investments, you don't pressure me to soften it. Journalistic integrity isn't negotiable. Ethan's smile goes soft with something that looks like pride. I wouldn't want it any other way. In fact, I'm counting on you to keep me honest. You're going to regret this when I publish The Hidden Costs of Venture Capital, how even ethical investors miss the mark. Probably, he agrees. But I'll respect the hell out of you for it. She kisses him there on the rooftop, tasting coffee and sunrise, and the particular flavor of choosing each other even when it's complicated. When they pull apart, Natalie rests her forehead against his. I love you, even though you're completely insane. I love you too, even though you're probably going to make my life very difficult professionally. Definitely, Natalie promises. They don't go back downstairs immediately. Instead, they sit on the bench Ethan had installed last month. Reclaimed wood, like everything else he builds now. Like he's trying to prove that beautiful things can come from broken pieces. Tell me something, Natalie says, her head on his shoulder. Do you ever regret it? That first night, letting me think you were an escort? Ethan is quiet for a long moment, his arm around her shoulders, his thumb tracing absent patterns on her arm. No, he says finally, because if I'd told you the truth right away, you would have seen Ethan cross the billionaire. You would have performed the way everyone performs around money. Carefully, strategically, with an eye toward what I could do for you. That's cynical. That's experience. He shifts to look at her directly. But you saw just Ethan, the lonely, exhausted guy who was so tired of pretending that he'd take one real conversation over 1,000 networking events. And that version of me, the one you met first, that's who I'm trying to be now, every day. Natalie traces the line of his jaw with her fingertips. You're doing a pretty good job. I have good motivation. He catches her hand, kisses her palm. You know what's funny? What? My brother still doesn't know about that night, about how we really met. Natalie sits up. Ethan, you haven't told him. What am I supposed to say? Hey, thanks for asking me to keep a low profile at your wedding. It led to the love of my life thinking I was a sex worker? Yes, exactly that. Natalie laughs, the sound bright in the morning air. He's going to kill you when he finds out. He's going to dine out on that story for years, Ethan corrects. Mia, too. I'll never hear the end of it. Good, you deserve it. He pulls her back against him, his chin resting on top of her head. They sit like that as the sun climbs higher, as Chicago wakes up beneath them. Traffic sounds rising, the city's heartbeat beginning its daily rhythm. I have a board meeting at 9, Ethan says eventually, reluctantly. I have a pitch call with a writer who wants to expose labor violations in the tech industry. Sounds like you're going to make me very uncomfortable. That's literally my job now. I know. He kisses the top of her head. I'm proud of you. I don't say that enough, but I am. Every single day. Natalie's throat goes tight. She turns in his arms, cups his face in her hands. You changed my life, Ethan Cross. You saved mine, he counters. Fair trade. They kiss one more time before the day demands them, soft and slow and full of promises they're still learning how to keep. 6 months after that rooftop morning, Modern Ethics magazine publishes its first issue under Natalie's leadership. The cover story is her sustainable fashion expose, 3 years delayed, but deeper and richer for the wait. It exposes labor violations in supply chains, names companies hiding exploitation behind greenwashing, and offers a roadmap for actual change. It goes viral. Within a week, 2 major fashion brands announce supply chain audits. A senator cites the article in a congressional hearing. The Columbia School of Journalism asks Natalie to guest lecture. Ethan frames the magazine cover and hangs it in his office, right next to his Harvard Business School degree, and the Forbes cover that called him the billionaire with a conscience. He's absurdly proud, even though the issue also includes a sidebar critiquing Crosstech's investment in a company that later failed environmental audits. "You really didn't pull that piece?" Marcus asks during a board meeting, genuinely baffled. "Editorial independence," Ethan says simply. "Besides, she was right. We missed red flags in our due diligence. It made us better." The sustainable initiative continues to grow. 57 companies in their portfolio now, 83 million in committed capital, a track record that proves ethics and profit aren't mutually exclusive. Ethan sleeps through the night now, takes Sundays off completely, laughs more, worries less, looks like someone who remembers what living feels like. And Natalie runs a magazine that matters, writes stories that change things, builds a team of journalists who believe words can shift the world. She's still afraid sometimes, still questions whether she deserves this life. Still has moments of panic when she remembers she's the girlfriend turned editor-in-chief and wonders if people whisper about nepotism behind her back. But then she looks at her work, the stories published, the changes made, the emails from readers saying, "This mattered to me." And she knows she earned this, every word of it. 2 years after that first rooftop morning, Ethan proposes. Not in a restaurant or a grand gesture with photographers and orchestras. He proposes in Natalie's apartment in Brooklyn, the tiny 400-square-foot space she still keeps, even though she lives in Chicago now, because she says she needs to remember where she came from. They're sitting on her thrift store couch, eating Chinese takeout from containers, when Ethan reaches into his pocket. "I have something for you," he says. The ring is simple, recycled gold, a single ethical diamond, designed by a jeweler in their sustainable portfolio. "Natalie Taylor," Ethan says, and his voice cracks slightly. "You saw me when I'd forgotten how to be seen. You challenged me when everyone else just agreed. You made me believe I could build something that mattered beyond just making money. Will you marry me?" Natalie looks at the ring, at this man, at the life they've built from honesty and risk and the courage to be real. "Yes," she says. "Yes. Obviously, yes." They get married a year later in a small ceremony in the rooftop garden. Mia is there, still glowing, 7 months pregnant with her first child. Ethan's brother is there, laughing when he finally hears the full story of how they met. Marcus is there, surprisingly emotional, giving a speech about how love makes people better at business, not worse. Natalie wears a dress from Threadline Collective, the ethical fashion company she discovered, that Crosstech invested in, that now employs 200 people in fair-wage factories. Ethan wears his sleeves rolled to his elbows, no tie, looking nothing like a billionaire and everything like himself. They exchange vows they wrote themselves. Promises about honesty and challenge, and never letting each other hide behind performances. Promises about building something that matters. When they kiss, the rooftop garden smells like rosemary and lavender, like the earth and growth, and beautiful things made from broken pieces. 5 years after that first night in a hotel room, Natalie publishes a book. It's part memoir, part investigative journalism, part love story. It's about sustainable business, ethical investing, and the radical act of choosing values over value. It's about loneliness and connection, performance and truth, the courage to be seen. She titles it, Just Ethan. The dedication reads, "For the man who bet his empire on being good and won everything that matters." Ethan reads it in one sitting, crying through the last 3 chapters, leaving tear stains on the advance copy she gives him. "You made me sound better than I am," he says, his voice rough. "I made you sound exactly like you are," Natalie corrects. "Flawed and brave and trying. I love you. I know. I wrote a whole book about it." The book becomes a bestseller, gets adapted into a limited series, sparks a conversation about ethical capitalism and whether companies can actually be forces for good. But more importantly, it sparks smaller, quieter conversations. Readers write to Natalie about their own performances, their own masks, their own moments of choosing honesty over safety, about the courage it takes to be seen, about building lives that feel true instead of just successful. 10 years after that first night. Natalie and Ethan have 2 children, a daughter named Grace who wants to be a journalist like her mother, and a son named River who builds things from recycled materials and has his father's gift for seeing potential in broken pieces. Crosstech is thriving. The sustainable initiative is now 60% of their portfolio. They've proven that ethics and profit can coexist, that values don't have to be sacrificed for value. Modern Ethics magazine has won 3 national magazine awards, published investigations that changed laws, exposed corruption, held power accountable. But on Sunday mornings, none of that matters. On Sunday mornings, they still go to the rooftop garden. All 4 of them now, with children running through the lavender, with coffee cooling in their cups, with Chicago spreading out beneath them in endless possibility. "Tell us the story again," Grace demands, settling into her mother's lap. "About how you met." Natalie looks at Ethan. He's graying at the temples now, laugh lines deepening around his eyes, looking nothing like the exhausted, lonely man who stood in a hotel elevator and decided to be honest. "Your father pretended to be an escort," Natalie begins. "Mom!" Grace gasps, delighted and scandalized. "It's true," Ethan confirms, pulling River onto his lap. "I let your mother think I was hired help at a wedding because I was tired of being a billionaire and just wanted to be a person for one night." "That's so sneaky," River says admiringly. "It was," Ethan agrees, "and also the best decision I ever made." "Why?" Grace asks. Natalie and Ethan look at each other across the rooftop garden, across 10 years of building something real, across a life that started with performance and became truth. "Because," Natalie says, "sometimes you have to risk everything to find out what really matters." "What really matters?" Grace asks. "Being seen," Ethan answers. "Being honest. Being brave enough to be yourself, even when it's scary." The children run off to chase butterflies in the garden. Natalie and Ethan sit together in the morning light, their hands linked, their lives woven together from honesty and risk and love that chose the hard, real thing over the easy, safe performance. This is the empire they built. Not in boardrooms or measured in billions, but in moments like this, rooftop gardens and Sunday mornings and children who know their parents' love story started with the courage to be real. In choosing each other daily, even when it's complicated. In building a life that feels true. In the end, this story isn't really about a billionaire who pretended to be an escort, or a struggling journalist who found success on her own terms. It's about the performances we all carry. The carefully constructed versions of ourselves we present to the world because we're terrified that who we really are isn't enough. It's about the exhaustion of that pretense, the loneliness of being admired but never truly known. It's about the radical, terrifying act of letting someone see you, not the polished version, not the successful version, not the version that looks good in photographs or sounds impressive at dinner parties. Just you, flawed and frightened and trying. Ethan risked his empire for his values and discovered that integrity is its own kind of wealth. Natalie risked failure by staying true to her dreams and learned that success means nothing if it requires you to betray yourself. Together, they built something neither could have created alone. Not just a relationship, but a blueprint for living that prioritizes meaning over metrics, connection over performance, truth over comfort. Because here's what they learned, what this story is really about. Love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who sees you completely, your brilliance and your brokenness, your courage and your fear, and chooses you anyway. Not the version you think you should be, but the version you actually are. And sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is let ourselves be seen that way. To stop performing success and start building meaning. To stop optimizing for what looks good and start choosing what feels real. To risk the empire we've built on pretense for the possibility of something true. That's the real risk. That's the real reward. If this journey moved you, if it made you question your own performances, your own masks, your own moments when you chose safety over honesty, I want to hear from you. Drop a rating from 0 to 10 in the comments. Tell me what resonated. Tell me what hurt. Tell me what made you think. And if you believe that some stories aren't just entertainment, but mirrors that help us see ourselves more clearly, if you believe that words can change not just minds but hearts, then subscribe. Because we're all just trying to figure out how to be human in a world that keeps asking us to be perfect. The next journey starts soon. I'll be here, telling stories about courage and truth, and the messy, beautiful work of being real. I hope you'll come along.